and welcome back to the most amazing channel on the internet. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and we are back with the scary childhood memory stories that you loved so much of in part 1. So part 2 is on. You also seem to really like my personal stories, so I've actually put 3 more in here for you. Do let me know if you have any scary childhood memory stories of your very own. And before I get into this video, I want to let you know that we are doing a big giveaway on our most amazing Facebook page. So just head on over, like the page, like the most recent post, and you could be in to win some cash. Hurrah! We all love cash, don't we? Like this video, share it with a friend, check out the links in the description box to our most amazing Instagrams, and I'm gonna crack on into these scary stories. Coming into number 10, we have the playroom. So I shared a story in part 1 that I called The Wolf, and I mentioned that in my nana's house she had a playroom for us kids that we actually never wanted to play in. In the comments, a lot of you asked to hear more about it, so I decided, do you know what, I will tell you more. So my nana lived in a big old farmhouse in a place called Hadnam in the UK. The house actually used to be 2 homes, but her and my granddad bought the neighbour's home and knocked it through to make one big 5-bed house with lots of space and 2 living rooms. My grandparents only had 2 kids, my mum and my auntie, but they had quite a few grandchildren, so they decided to turn a room at the back of the house into a playroom. A whole room to play in. Like, honestly, how lucky is that? The only thing is though that honestly, none of us wanted to play there ever. The room felt colder than other rooms in the house, and I always had the feeling that someone was watching me in there. Maybe it was because it was the furthest away room in the house and we didn't want to be so far away from our nana, or maybe it's because the room was an old bedroom that nana's former neighbour, who never had any children of her own, died in. I honestly would absolutely love to know more about the house and the room today, but my nana doesn't live there anymore. But yeah, it was creepy. Not a good playroom. Coming into number 9, we have Lucy and the cat. Here, this is another story of my own, but I just wanted to let you know. Up until recently, my family had a cat called Pippin. Now, Pippin was a pretty wild cat, despite being a domestic pet, and when she was young, she used to get pretty crazy. Around 9 PM, almost on the dot, she would run up and down the stairs every night, but after she reached the age of about 6 or 7, Pippin chilled way out. Sadly, Pippin did die last year at the grand old age of 17, God bless her. Anyway, 9 or so years ago, my sister's friend Lucy came over, and Lucy had come around a few times, but like not super often. At least 3 or 4 times in the past though. But on this particular occasion, Pippin absolutely freaked out, like seriously freaked out. Pippin was acting like she was when she was a kitten, but only when she saw Lucy. She was running around the room going wild and running up and down the stairs, but she was also doing something new. She would now and then stop dead and just hiss at Lucy, and when I say at Lucy, I kind of mean slightly to the side of her. After a while, Pippin hid behind the TV, which again was something that she'd never done. My mum was baffled, and so was Lucy at first. But then, she shyly said that her cat had died last week. We kind of think that Pippin maybe knew this, and perhaps Lucy's cat had travelled to our house with her. Creepy. Alright, we have a different story coming in at number 8. We have Jordan. After the first video, you guys started sharing your own scary childhood stories, and I wanted to read one that was submitted by our most amazing subscriber, Serena Bloodmoon. She got the top comment on the video, and she said, "When I was young, I had an imaginary friend named Jordan. He had dark brown hair, freckles on his nose and cheeks, and dark brown eyes that almost looked black. We would always play together. If my mum was working or I was alone, we would play even more. He was about 10 or 11 and I was about 6. Sometimes at night he would lay on the floor next to my bed saying that he would keep me safe. As I got older, he started to fade from my memory as an imaginary friend does, but I would still feel like someone was always sleeping next to my bed. A few years ago when I was 19, I moved into my first apartment and met one of the families living there. There was a mother, a father and 2 kids. The girl was Amanda, but the boy, his name was Jordan, and I swear he looked exactly like my imaginary friend and even acted like him. I came home from work one night and the family was going out to do dinner. I said hello and walked past them, but Jordan tugged on my shirt and said, "You'll be safe when you sleep." Creepy. It shook me deeply and I brushed it off. That night I felt a strange presence and looked at the side of my bed. Sitting on the floor was Jordan with a slight smile as he said, "I told you I'd keep you safe." I woke up screaming, realizing that the encounter in the hallway was all a dream. I'm honestly glad that the last part was a dream, but still, that's pretty freaky. Coming into number 7, we have Lake Lost. One thing I love about where I live is that there are loads of beautiful lakes with water clean enough to swim in. The only thing is though, I freak out when something brushes up against my legs. I'm always thinking like, snake. It's probably just weeds, but I really don't want to be touched by a snake. Who does? Luckily, while swimming and being touched by creepy lake things, I've never thought body. But with that in mind, listen to this story from Redditor BarthySphere7110. They said when I was a kid, my dad would take us to a giant lake with a big sandy shore. It was like a landlocked beach for hillbillies. I was wading in the shallow end when I felt something brush through my fingers. Being 7 and wishing it was a real beach, I thought maybe these are sea plants. But then I realized that was stupid. As I squeezed the tendrils that were brushing my hand, they squished and sunk, and then I felt bones through the soft squishy mass. Finger-like bones, as if I was holding the hand of a child my age. I got out of the water and I sat on the shore and I told nobody. A year later, my sister said that she'd thought a boy had been kicking her under the water, and when she grabbed at the foot to retaliate, it felt cold and squishy. She also told no one. Honestly, I'm not okay with this story. Did you come across a dead child in the water or a ghost? Ugh. Or maybe water snake. But I have another lake story for you here at number 6. This is Under the Ducks. Julie Jungers Carter wrote into BuzzFeed to share a really scary story about her daughter. Now this is what she had to say. My 4-year-old told me about the time that she went for a swim in the lake and could hear her mum yelling and crying out to her. But she couldn't come because she was, I quote, under the ducks. Then she remembers falling asleep, and when she woke up, I was her new mummy. I don't feel good about this at all, no. What a terrifying memory to have as a kid, although it seems like her daughter was totally unfazed. If my theoretical child said that to me, I would freak out so hard. Creepfest 2019. Blah. Some real childhood fear coming up next. Can you even imagine this being your situation? We have The Harvester at number 5. A woman going by the name of Blonde Logic wrote into her family forum to share her worst childhood memory, and this actually really shook me because it could have ended so much worse. She wrote, I was 8 years old, we lived in the country, and I was a real tomboy. I would spend most of my time outside playing. One day, I took the dogs out into a neighbour's field of maize. We were running through the high stalks, and then I heard the harvester. The harvester was coming even close. It wouldn't have been able to see me. I thought I was going to be chopped into a million pieces. And I ran, but I didn't know which way was out, and the sound kept getting louder. I finally managed to make it to the edge and I felt safe. After that, I stuck to climbing trees where I could see everything. Honestly, can you even imagine? That is my worst nightmare, because the person in the harvester would never have seen her, and it would have been like, dead kid. Ugh. Honestly, heart racing, the sound coming closer, I could really imagine that one. Coming into number 4, we have Mr. Bones. Ultimo Rudo from Windsor, Ontario, basically our neighbours here at Most Amazing Studios, wrote in a thread about creepy moments from childhood in a forum on unexplainedmysteries.com. They wrote, honestly, a really scary story about Mr. Bones, a childhood friend. They said in 1982 in kindergarten, I used to have an imaginary friend called Mr. Bones. He was a skeleton. For a while, things were good with us. I even attempted to draw him, but to no avail. One night, I had a dream that I was coming up from the basement, and at the far end of the kitchen stood Mr. Bones. Only this time he didn't look as friendly as he made himself out to be. He rushed at me with his teeth chattering. He moved in a rhythmic, menacing way like the skeletons did in old Disney Halloween cartoons. After we were done, I wanted nothing more to do with him. I banished him as my imaginary friend. 16 years ago, we moved from our house because the city was widening the boulevard and we were on the sidewalk. Our house was going to be bulldozed. A week before the move, I was up at 2 in the morning watching Chips with my mum, a show that I loved as a kid. That night, I had the same identical nightmare as before. The only difference is, I'm an adult, but Mr. Bones still really scared me. A few years back, I was reading Luna Park by Bret Easton Ellis, and there is a scene in the book where a skeleton with chattering teeth comes running down the stairs. I've never felt such a cold chill in my life. I actually threw threw the book on the floor and stopped reading it. Whoa, what a story! Who is Mr. Bones? Honestly, who indeed? I heard a theory out there that childhood imaginary friends are actually ghosts that you can see, but a ghost made of just bones? Ugh. No. Coming into number 3, we have the chair. Now this is the last of my own scary childhood memory stories for this list, but it's a good one. I guess a good one for you anyway, you don't have to live with it. Not luckily, neither do I anymore, but still, every time I go home to see my mum, I feel very uneasy about this chair that she still owns. Let me explain. So my mum has this dark wood carved chair that I just feel like is evil. I don't want to sound crazy, but every time I look at it, I'm like, that is an evil chair. I've never liked it. It just radiates a bad energy. So long as I remember, she's had it, and I've just never spent too much time around it because once again, it really fills me with like a cold dread. It's always been in places like the hallway for decoration though, so I've never really had to like be in a room with it for too long. Anyway, once upon a time a friend of mine came over when I was in my early teens, and he said that he also thought that the chair was weird before I even said anything. He said he had a strange sense that it was missing something, but he couldn't figure out what. He didn't like it though. A few years ago my mum was having some of her things valued, the chair being one of them, and she was told that the chair was from the 1800s, and funnily enough, it was part of a duo. It had a missing partner. The story's a little unfinished, but it just kind of freaks me out that the chair seems to have such an effect on so many people, and that my friend knew it was part of a pair before my mum even did. Coming into number 2, we have BRIE. This kid's recurring nightmare has put me seriously way off cheese, which if you know me is basically unheard of, but ugh. You'll hear why, and basically the long and short of it is that sweet dreams are not made of BRIE. There was a thread in the Daily Mail about creepy kids, like all of the things that they remember and the creepy things they say. Anyway, a commenter wrote this about their 6-year-old daughter. Since the age of 3, Dee Dee always liked stroking people's faces. She likes stroking their cheeks because, quote, they feel like cheese, and she loves cheese, I hear ya. Since this age, she's always had a recurring nightmare about slicing off an old lady's cheek and eating it. Old ladies' cheeks feel and taste like BRIE apparently. Right, so that's BRIE off the menu then. Nice one. Blech. Finally, coming into number 1, this has to be one of the scariest childhood memories ever, as it involves the kid's own past life murder. Finally, at number 1, we have the body. A case in Gaza made headlines in 2017, although the actual study came from an old Israeli doctor who had passed away in the early 2000s. It seems that he was working with a 3-year-old child who'd never been named in his notes. He had a large red birthmark on his head, and he said he remembered being struck with an axe in the same spot, although the kid's parents were like, we've never hit him with an axe. The kid was convinced that he had lived before, and he knew where. Eventually, after he talked about it so much, the family just decided to take him to the village that he said he was from. It was an area on the Gaza Strip where a lot of people went missing due to the tensions. It seems when they were in the village, the little boy went straight up to a suspicious looking man and said, I used to be your neighbour. We had a fight and you killed me with an axe. I know where you buried my body. Oh my god, can you even imagine a 3-year-old just going up to an adult and saying that? But then, he then led his family and villagers to the spot where he said he was buried. They started digging, and lo and behold, there were skeletons buried under stones. The body? Well, it had an axe wound to the head. Oh my god, what a video! This has freaked me out so hard. Like, seriously, do you guys have any terrifying childhood stories? Do let me know in the comments section down below and make me feel a bit better about the horror show that was this video. If you want a part 3 to this video, please do let me know. And also, don't forget to head on over to our Facebook page to enter our giveaway. Make sure you like it and like the post and let us know that you've done so. While you're liking things, please like this video, share it with a friend, and stay subscribed for more most amazing lists. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and I'll see you soon. Bye!